Good afternoon and good morning if you're on the West Coast. I'm Carissa Krantz, and this is another episode of The Laws That Matter on Jane Unchained News Network. Today we have a great guest who's going to tell us all about the link between veganism and spirituality. So this is some great food for thought, so to speak. So without further ado, let's bring our guest on, Lisa Levinson, a vegan, a spiritual guru who has done so many wonderful things in the vegan movement and in terms of the spiritual movement. So if you are a vegan and you want to make the connection to spirituality, this is the show for you. And if you're a spiritual being who is vegan curious, not quite there, this is also a show for you. You should stay tuned in and listen, because there really is a connection to the food that we eat and what we put into our body and how we live our lives. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us and joining me today. Let's get right to it. How did you get your start in veganism and spirituality as a connection?
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, I'm hardly a guru. What I like to do is create spaces for people to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And so that's really how this all began many years ago. It started with my own exploration in just trying to find my place. Where is my place being a vegan in the spiritual community? So I was trying different Buddhist communities and other spiritual communities where people were working with raising the energy and trying to even bend spoons literally with their thoughts. And the idea
How did that work? Were people able to bend spoons with their thoughts?
Believe it or not, it did happen. I was at an event, and this was a pretty interesting moment for me, because we were raising the spiritual energy as a group, as a community, through prayer and intentional thought and through mindfulness. And this did happen. And then following,
were you able to bend the spoon, or you just witnessed other people?
I think we were all part of a group that did this. And
oh, wow.
Yes. And then afterwards there was a meal, and the meal happened to be a barbecue where people were eating dead animals. And I was very upset by this, and I felt as though the energy in the room really dropped. And so at that time I talked to the leaders who were friends of mine, and they got it. They really understood what was going on. And I said it would be really helpful to have food that also matched the vibration of the event that you're trying to lead, and that didn't involve cruelty and suffering, because that whole process of killing animals is traumatic for them. And so in a spiritual sense, do we want to contribute towards that suffering? If we're practicing, a lot of spirituality has to do with nonviolence and kindness and compassion and some of these wonderful universal ideals. And so in keeping with that, it's very important to have the entire event reflect that. So whether it's what we're eating, what we're discussing, what we're learning about. So my friends are really open to that, actually. And after that, they were more interested in veganism and learning more about it. In fact, they even told me later about a time where they were trying they had some mice in their place, and they were trying to figure out, what do we do? And they came to me and said, oh, we've got a humane trap for the mice. They were trying to let me know it had made a difference. So every time we interact with spiritual people,
that's a conscious shift. When you stop taking the food off your plate that has come there in a violent way, and then you start making the connection in your everyday life, whether it's trying to get mice out of your house or ants out of your house or insects or spiders or whatever, when you start to think of ways to do it that's nonviolent and humane as a rescue mission, then you really have elevated your consciousness as a human being on this planet.
Oh, yeah. There's something really important about our awareness and being aware of others. And that's such a deep principle of spirituality, is extending our compassion to other people. And with veganism, we extend it even further to other animals. And that's a big shift. And that's one of the reasons why vegan spirituality is important.
So what came first for you? Was it veganism or spirituality?
I think they both sort of came together. I was exploring spirituality and learning about animals and just the deeper, what was going on behind the scenes. I think for many years I was vegetarian, and I knew that was important to me, but I didn't know a little bit more about what was going on with animal suffering in some of the factory farm situations, and the connections between dairy and veal. And once
And
I
how
started
long have
putting
you
this
been
together,
vegan? And how long were you vegetarian?
oh, well, I've probably been vegan for about 25 years, and I was vegetarian for just a few years. So it was really in my early 20s that I went vegetarian. Mhm.
Okay, but you made this connection. So I was born and raised vegan by my mom, one of the few people.
Yay!
Yeah. So, but I know back then, it wasn't normal. Okay. So when you made the shift, it wasn't normal. It's a lot more mainstream now. So what is it that did that for you? Like, what was your aha moment?
Well, some of them, they kind of happen throughout my life, and I think that's what happens for many of us. We get these little awarenesses as we're going along, and then later we have an opportunity to make a choice. And so I remember when I was quite young, and I saw, and my parents took me to a fair in the summertime, and we saw an animal that looked very, very sickly. It was a little calf, and above the calf there was a sign that said veal. So that helped me right there make that connection in a very obvious way. And so we no longer were able to eat veal in my house because I would start to cry. And so just kind of making those connections. And later I was doing environmental education for the Hidden Villa ranch, and we had a working farm, and we did take care of the animals. We helped some animals give birth, and one of them was a cow, and she gave birth to Brownie, who was this adorable little calf. So I was tasked with feeding Brownie and taking care of Brownie, and then later Brownie got put into a truck and taken off to slaughter, which was so upsetting. I actually ran after the truck. I was just very upset, and at that time it was like a no-brainer. Vegetarian was happening for me for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. A lot of people need to make the connection and they just don't. You know, there's that saying, if slaughterhouses only had glass walls, and they don't have glass walls. And part of the problem is not only do they not have glass walls, but it's a crime to report the crimes of what's going on inside the slaughterhouses. So the laws are protecting the criminality and the violence rather than protecting justice and equality and all the principles that we're supposed to stand on as a nation. With our current man-made laws, forget about the fact that we're in complete violation of spiritual laws by the way we're operating our food system. So, okay, so you made the connection like 30 years ago almost, with vegetarian at least. And how did that evolve into you creating a space for spirituality and veganism to have a link for others to find that same interconnection?
Yeah, so the link really occurred after I had met up with a group of artists. I was doing mosaic murals at the time as a community artist, and met up with some fellow artists, and we decided, well, we were all into vegetarian. I was vegan at the time, and we decided, well, let's start a group to teach compassion for animals through the arts. So we started a nonprofit, Public Eye Artists for Animals, and we worked together and built this community, and it was lots of fun, actually, really good times. And we had people in the community who were very interested in veganism and became vegan. And at one point, one of our the people in our group said, hey, I want to have a vegan church. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. She was explaining how she felt disconnected at church when they would serve animals. And so we thought, wow, well, that's a real need to actually have a vegan church. And also another thing that was coming up is we were in these discussions about veganism and about spirituality within our group. And we talked about those two connections, and what a struggle it was when you were exploring spirituality and then had these moments of like, one of the people in the group is wearing fur. What do I do about that? And how do we bring this awareness into the spiritual community? So at that point, we put it all together, and we started to meet as that group, Vegan Spirituality, and we met every month and kind of discussed, what does this mean to be a spiritual vegan?
Wait, and when did vegan spirit? So you're the founder of Vegan Spirituality. When did that begin? How long ago?
Gosh, let's see, maybe could have been 2008 or 9. Yes. And I did this with a friend, Sandy Herman. She actually coined the term vegan spirituality. And then I said, well, let's do this. Let's do a group. So we actually, one of our first things after meeting for about a year, we hosted a retreat to just see who was interested in this. And we had about 55 people who showed up from all over the place. And so we thought, well, this is a good thing. And then we started having vegan Thanksgivings with a spiritual emphasis and hosting events. And then I moved to the West Coast from the East Coast, and we decided to start other groups in different places. And now there are probably about 12 to 15 groups, vegan spirituality groups that are aligned with our same message that host events like every month. And
they're all under your umbrella?
Yes, but we're all part of vegan spirituality. However, each person who runs a group, each organizer is independent. And so they run their own groups. They figure out what they want to do. A lot of the people who are called to lead a group are spiritual themselves. And so they might be doing meditation. They might be doing Reiki. They might be bringing people in to discuss veganism and spirituality. So it really depends. And so each group has their own personality. And I run the group in Los Angeles right now. So we have our own personality too.
Yeah. I hope you trademarked the words vegan spirituality.
Oh, no, but if I could, I can do that through you. I would love to do that.
I could try to give advice for it. I helped Jane do New Day, New Chef trademarks.
Wonderful.
So I'm not a trademark lawyer, but I did do our trademarks for Veg, and if it's available, if it's not already taken and you're already in use of it with groups, it's something you should absolutely do, because I think you could do a lot with vegan spirituality as a brand. I mean, you already are. So, okay, well, this is really interesting. And then you also have this Interfaith Vegan Coalition.
Yes.
How is that different than vegan spirituality?
Well, they are different. So spirituality and our vegan spirituality, it's a movement. So there's lots of people working on this in their own ways. Like Dr. Will Tuttle is out there.
I love Will.
That. Yes. And Victoria Moran. And we have people working on that connection between veganism and spirituality in a broad sense. So spirituality, that might include how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to others, other people, other animals, and then also how we relate to the world, the earth, the environment. And so that's much broader. And people who are involved in just exploring, they may or may not be connected to a higher power or that idea. So spirituality has a broad sense. It has a lot to do with our felt sense and that sense of awe and wonder that we experience. And so the Interfaith Vegan Coalition has a really different mission. This one is a coalition of faith-based vegan advocacy groups from all around the world who have banded together to promote veganism as part of our faith, as part of our tradition. And these are also broad traditions. Within our group, we have Jewish veg, and we have vegan Muslim.
I actually went to a Jewish veg Passover with Victoria Moran in New York.
Yay! How wonderful! That's so great.
Yeah.
And Dharma Voices for Animals is part of our group, and also we have a pagan group. So it's really a mix of all different kinds of traditions, and it is truly interfaith. And what we do is we try to promote veganism within our places of worship. So we've put together some materials to help people do that. So if you're an activist and you're in a tradition and you're maybe the lone vegan in the place, what we're trying to do is provide tools to help everyone in that position to promote and just start to bring in vegan values into your place of worship. And so that's a big part of what we do. We also join together as a vegan voice, all of the groups, to comment on current events and things going on, so that we can have a voice as well to advocate for veganism within different traditions.
And are you focused mostly on just the interfaith aspect of it, or do you actually attend some of these like Jewish veg events, or are you more, once again, like the chief umbrella where all these other interfaith organizations that are linking veganism, spirituality, are operating? Do you
Yes,
attend any of them?
we are. So our group, and I co-founded this with Judy Carmen, who is the author of Peace to All Beings, which is a lovely spiritual book. And so what we do is help to organize all the different groups together and to decide on actions that we want to take and events, like we're hosting a retreat. And so we're really the umbrella group together to really have an opportunity to speak among our groups. And there are also individuals who are part of the group too. So it's quite a wonderful community. And I do attend events as well that I'm interested in. So I have been to some of the Jewish veg events locally that we have. And also I've definitely attended retreats with Dharma Voices for Animals. So I think individually I have attended a lot of these types of events, enjoy them quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that your reach is mostly in their faith, or is your reach people that are not yet vegan but that are making the connection of faith and nonviolence?
Well, that is a great question. So most of the people who align with us are vegan. And they tell us their story either of how when they went vegan, they suddenly became spiritual. It was something new for them. And that does happen quite frequently because a lot of spiritual leaders and masters do adopt a vegan diet when they're going into deep spiritual practice. And that does have the effect of kind of clearing out I guess you could call it different energies and allowing for a higher vibration so that we can connect more spiritually. And that happens to many people. It's a surprise to them when they go vegan that they become spiritual. And also there are, so within this, we've got people who are also coming as a new vegans. So for example, our group, we really premiered our group at the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto. It was a couple years ago in 2018. We had a big booth. We partnered with Green Dot. It's a vegan food company in India.
Yeah.
They shared their vegan food, and we had a prayer for compassion going there in our booth, and we met with thousands of people. There were about 8,000 people that attended that event, and we met with many of them and talked to them. A lot of people who were vegetarian came up to us because they aligned with us, and at that moment we realized we needed some education around how to make the next step from vegetarian to veganism, and to do that in a really loving way. And so we've created some brochures about that. So in those environments, we do a lot of outreach, especially before the coronavirus hit. We were going to having tables at the Unity conferences and at the Jaina conferences, and so that we could interact with a lot of people there and bring the spiritual people into our coalition. And so I think it really works both ways.
Yeah, I think it really actually does work both ways, because on one hand, veganism is almost a religion in and of itself. It's something that we as a lifestyle practice religiously. And it's almost like I, as a lawyer, feel like veganism should be a protected constitutional class, and that the Constitution needs to expand to give us rights that are under strict scrutiny, just like race or disability or gender discrimination or equality, marriage equality, because we should have the right to live our way with our morals. And in the end, what is religion? It's a moral baseline. Our moral baseline is veganism, and that's how we are living our lives. But I think it's also brilliant to have this interfaith coalition, because so many people have been raised religious with these cultural norms ingrained in them, and they don't want to abandon that, nor should they have to, but they should be able to integrate their vegan lifestyle, their vegan choices, and realize that they are not in violation of their religious laws by practicing these higher universal spiritual laws of what veganism stands for.
Yes, exactly.
So it really does ways.
Yeah, so veganism is
so
part of... I was just going to say, it's
Go
part
ahead.
of the golden rule, which has been translated and used in many different traditions. But that idea of being kind to others and extending that to the animals is really the basis of compassion for many, many traditions. And I also have heard many people say that veganism is their religion. And I
It's
also,
mine. I mean, I'm
yeah,
born Jewish, but I was also born vegan. And what do I practice religiously? My day-to-day life is veganism. That's how I live my life. Now, that doesn't mean I don't go to a temple or synagogue on the high holidays. That's a cultural decision. That's a family decision. But, my choice is not to sit around a dinner table to break the fast on Yom Kippur over a bunch of animals. Well, and I guess that's why Jewish veg exists now. You don't have to. You could break the fast with a bunch of vegan options on your plate. But for me, religion it's almost more Buddhist in my approach, which is, it's a daily meditation, it's a daily life, it's nonviolence, it's compassion. And all religions pretty much stand for the same principles, the same pillars of nonviolence, love, compassion, care for our planet, care for our neighbor, etc. But we get lost in our religious traditions and historic rituals that are written for us to practice that then have turned into man-made interpretations of how these religions should continue to be carried out, which then is sometimes not consistent with these higher laws.
Yeah, so getting back to the basic foundations, the idea is to align with the original intention of the traditions. And many of them do have at their core this heart of kindness and compassion. And so part of what we're doing is helping people in faith-based traditions make that connection that veganism is it's part of their foundation in their tradition. Yeah.
So what is faith-based vegan advocacy? Is that saying, okay, I have my faith, I know my faith, and now I found veganism, so I have to now learn to advocate this veganism within the faith that I'm used to help make veganism an acceptable tradition within my current tradition? Is that what faith-based advocacy is?
Well, I think of it as, so we've got in the world, there are probably 80% of people in the world are connected to a tradition. They are religious. And as vegan activists, we want to communicate with these people, and religion is like the heart of their life. And so I think being able to reach them from within their tradition is really key. And that's how a lot of advocacy can happen worldwide, actually, because there are people I visited Myanmar, and people there were very devoted to their Buddhist practices. And I think as we begin to grow as a movement, we will be meeting people all around the world who are interested and curious and want to practice these kinds of spiritual compassion for all living beings. And part of that is educating people from within their tradition. And that's important. And so we have our interfaith group all together, but each group is also individually doing their work within their community.
I like to say that human law is an interpretation of enlightened principles and enlightened ideals, but it's really man-made law. That is, you can't violate spiritual contracts. You cannot go around spiritual laws. There's always going to be karmic consequences. So even with our court systems today, there are many casualties of the law because it's filled with human error and human interpretation. I think in a lot of ways, religious laws are the same. Religions are an interpretation of these higher universal laws that have been handed to us through enlightened people to create a framework for us to follow as human beings so we can live a highly evolved, enlightened, elevated life. But lots of times you're dealing with human emotions and human interpretations, which then skew what was really intended for us and delivered to us. So as much as religion, which 80% of people are identifying with, is, I have a little new friend here, who's affecting my train of thought. pumpkin. So anyway, so as much as religion is there for us to be, it's a positive. Like, people need framework within their lives, whether they need office procedures in an office, a protocol of how to carry out their job duties, or whether they want to take an exercise class and they need to know the choreography and the combination to follow in order to get exercise and to burn enough calories, or whether it's a diet and they need to follow the diet in order to lose weight. They need recipes to follow. Religion is that. It is a framework and a formula for us to all reach the same goal, which is enlightenment. So how do we reach enlightenment is our ability to open and receive, and to be open-minded, and to understand that and to think for yourself, and to realize that sometimes that everything that is handed to you and passed to you is not always necessarily correct, and you have to go within yourself to check in to see what feels right, feels correct. Because one of the comments here, I think, said it really, I like this one. I'll put it up. Tina Walker, she said, "We are born vegan, but we are brainwashed to eat animals." I think that that's profound. We are born one way, but then something is so culturally ingrained that it just becomes for us. And we think that's what we're supposed to do. We don't realize we're being brainwashed, that this is something to be brainwashed about. It's just, this is how we're raised. So it's a lot to unwire, to rewire, to make the full connection emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically of how everything we do, every word we say, every thought we think, every food that goes into our body affects us on an energetic level. Whether that's something that we are elevating the energy or de-elevating our energy, everything we do is energy. We're energy. The food we eat is energy. So how we eat and what we consume, the energy of that food, if it's fear and suffering, is going to affect our energy. I remember seeing something on a science channel in school. They had a water bottle, and they were able to measure the molecules of the bottle by the emotion and energy that was around it. Like, if it was an angry environment, they would like shake it up, and water was actually different than the water bottle that was meditated over.
Yes, exactly. There's a gentleman in Japan who did that type of research, and he looked at the molecular structure of the water, and it was pretty interesting. He had children that would have thoughts such as cute water, adorable water, and the water he looked at under a microscope would be organized almost like it looked like a crystalline structure, more like a castle, very beautiful. And then when they thought ugly water, yucky water, it looked like blotches and blobs, and it wasn't organized in that same way. So it was pretty profound to actually have images of this. And because our body is also quite a bit of water, within our structure, what we
Isn't
think,
it like, what are we, 80%, 90% water?
yeah, I think it's about 80%. And the structure in our body, so what we think really does matter. It does affect our the water in our body. And so when we're thinking more positively about ourselves, about our lives, about the animals and the world, then we do bring in a positive energy into ourselves.
Yeah, and I really think that that's important too, because as many of us are coming from a source of light within us, and I think that we all want to be positive, but there are these forces of lightness and darkness that's heavy and light and elevated. And it doesn't matter how much of a light worker you are, how light and elevated you are. If you're around people who are light, you're going to feel more light. And if you're around people or energies that are not of the light, it's going to take away from you. You're going to feel drained. You're going to feel like something's taking you down, because that's energy. And energy is going to always change. It's always constant. It's always moving. And that's why I think it's really important to be conscious and make a conscious decision of, I am not going to eat these foods. I'm going to stay of the light. I'm going to surround myself by the light, because it doesn't matter. We're all able to be in the light or in the dark. It's energy, and energy can transmute and change every single one of us. That's, if you break us all down to atoms and molecules and matter, that's what matters. And the matter of us is made up of all these different matters that matter. And that's the definition of whatever form of this being or this food or whatever. It's made up of energy and matter. So if you're a spiritual being and you're trying to make sense of this world and you're living maybe in a state of depression, or you're feeling like you're down, but you're eating meat, you may not even be realizing, because you're not participating in a conscious way, but you are participating in an unconscious way of the violence on your plate. You're still consuming it and it's still affecting you. And I think that the most sensitive people in this world, they may not be vegan. They might just be sensitive and compassionate and empathetic and not making the connection to the food on their plate. And then when they eat the food, they don't realize that food is contributing to further depression.
Yes, that's a really important piece, what you just mentioned, because how do we feed ourselves and nurture ourselves spiritually? And a big part of that is for people who do consider themselves spiritual, it would be an interesting maybe experiment just to try to have vegan food. There's actually, we work really closely with Thomas Jackson, who is the filmmaker for A Prayer for Compassion, which is a lovely film that
we actually had him on here a few weeks ago.
You did? Oh, great. That's so great.
Yeah.
So he was one of the founding members of our Interfaith Vegan Coalition. And so having people he has a special challenge called the Compassionate Living Challenge. And you can actually find more about that on his website, and even on our Interfaith Vegan Coalition website, we have information about how to sign up for this. And it's very important because it's a spiritual form of trying vegan for a number of days. And then there's different spiritual questions that go along with it. And I know Judy Carmen helped to write some of this, and along with Thomas Jackson, to give it a spiritual spin. So people who are curious and might want to just see, well, what would happen as a spiritual person, what would happen to me if I tried vegan for this number of days along with these spiritual practices? Would my heart open even more? And I think the answer, at least for many people I've talked to, has been yes. In fact, people often say that going vegan was the best decision they ever made in their life, and then proceed to talk more about their spirituality and how they feel different in their awareness since making that choice.
And so many people in the world meditate and they're not vegan. And I think that all of those people are people that would be open to being vegan if they just had a little bit of guidance and someone to make the connection for them, because they're sitting there daily trying to check in, trying to focus on the good, trying to be positive, these are not people that want to go murder animals and skin their skin and suck their blood out and, digest their feces and toenails and eyeballs and everything else. That's not these people. There's a whole spiritual movement of people. So much of our planet, I think, would be vegan if they made the connection on this side. And you have the climate healers. That's one aspect. You have those that are for the animals. That's the animal rights movement. That's a different movement. There is a spiritual movement out there. There is a spiritual movement of people. Then there may not be the animal rights movement, because the animal rights movement are for the animals and giving a voice to the voiceless, and their chosen cause are animals. But there's this spiritual movement. There are these people who are spiritual, who want to just meditate and be kind and compassionate and believe in the law of attraction and believe in attracting light and the power of visualization. And if they're smart and they make the connection to that, which they already are because they're on the path, then they're going to make a connection to how they will be more in the light and more enlightened and more clear of thought when they are choosing foods that are allowing them to elevate their consciousness and open up, rather than cloud it with karmic pollution, is what it is. I mean, when these animals are put in basically slave camps to be dairy cows or to whatever they're doing before they're murdered, it's like there's the slave camp and then there's the death camp. We are consuming that energy. And even if you're not consuming it by eating it and drinking it, and you're a vegan, you're still consuming it because it's part of the energy of the air you breathe. So long as our world is contributing in this, we're all suffering.
Yeah, so actually when Dr. Will Tuttle, he wrote the World Peace Diet, that's what it's all about, world peace. I mean, underneath this idea of peace and love, it is compassion for all living beings. And I think that's part of it. It's a simple thing to practice because the idea of peace begins on your plate. And also the other common thing that people say is we are what we eat. So we have to think about that. We want to be compassionate and loving, then we don't want to eat violence. And whether the violence may have happened to an animal in their bloodstream, when we get afraid, our hormones are just going nuts inside of us, and we emit all kinds of different toxins. And I think what happens is that we end up, people eat those when they're consuming the animal. So it's important to just see the whole picture, and to recognize and just to experiment with yourself. I think that's for many spiritual people. Just see what happens. Give it a try, without any judgment. See what happens. You might try it and notice something different in yourself, and that can be very valuable.
So I want to get back to what you said before about your spiritual retreats that you have. Do you have any upcoming retreats?
Yes, we do actually. So we have a vegan spirituality forum and retreat, and this is very different than a lot of the retreats that we've run in the past, which have been more open, spiritual, looking at it in that way that you discussed as visualizing and spending time together. Trying to build our vegan community. This is a little different. This is actually, the retreat that we're doing is more an interfaith retreat, and it's one where we're bringing people together from all different traditions to get some tools to bring back to their community so that they can actually start to do vegan advocacy in their places of worship. And we're actually bringing in many of our coalition members, including Jewish Veg, including Dharma Voices for Animals, and some great speakers, Dr. Milton Mills, who's Seventh-day Adventist, Victoria Moran, and also Dr. Lisa Kimmerer. She wrote a book on animals and world religions. And so we've got lots of people, including Will Tuttle, and others who are going to do some education for people about how do we do this and have a spirit of the collaboration amongst all of us, so we can share and then go back to the communities and say, hey, I learned this new way of reaching out. Here's some materials that I didn't have before. And here's some support that I now have to actually try this in my community. So that's the idea, is to really have a brainstorming think tank, and also have time for self-reflection. We're going to be doing this at Unity Village, which is on the grounds of where the Fillmores created that tradition, and there are.
So this is not going to be like a Zoom meeting here.
No, it won't be a Zoom meeting. However, we had planned it for this year, and due to all the COVID restrictions, we're going to postpone it for 1 year, which means if you hadn't heard about it and would like to join it, you're welcome to do that. We're actually going to have it in the fall of 2021, and so we're going to still have that opportunity to really be together. This year, we're going to do a little online gathering where we do a community ritual. So you're welcome to join that as well.
And when's the online gathering?
That is going to be September 12th. And that's the day that we would have been together anyway. So anyone who'd like to join us, you can. And
how could they join if they want to join?
They can reach out to Interfaith at idausa.org. And that way we could give them more information. They could also visit our website, which is interfaithvegancoalition.org. And so that's...
Is there a cost, or is there a cost for people to attend?
Not for the meeting that we're going to do. That's a virtual one. It's this September. For the actual retreat, there is a fee. And so that's part of helping us to put it together, actually.
Yeah, sure. Of course. Well, and how often are you attracting in your efforts of veganism and spirituality new converts to vegan spirituality, those that are not living a vegan lifestyle?
Well, we do have people who join who are new in all respects. We have people who are new to spirituality, and then also people who are new to veganism. So in our group, I run a local vegan spirituality group, and people come. Most of the people are vegan, but some people come who are vegetarian and they want to learn a little bit more, or maybe they're not even vegetarian and they're curious, they're spiritual, they want to know the connection, and then join in and get a sense of who we are and what does it mean to be vegan as a spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm. And if people want to join vegan spirituality as a group, how would they do that?
Well, so we have a website also, veganspirituality.com, and on there, there's a list of groups. So you can find out, oh, wow, I live in Olympia, Washington. There is a group there, and you can join that. Or I'm in Los Angeles, or I'm in Tucson. There's a really active group there. So you can join a local group. Also, we have online meetings, and we did this for people who maybe they're the only vegan in their town, or maybe they live in an area where we don't have a group yet. And so you're welcome to join us. We have, you can sign up for that. It's it's idausa.org/vegan spirituality. And in that way, you'll be able to join our online meetings, which happen every other month right now. And so that's a great way to also stay connected with other vegans. And we interview actually different leaders in the spiritual and vegan world, and we get to hear that kind of news. It's really, what are people doing in this vegan spiritual movement? Who are the movers and shakers? And then we also do some either a prayer or intention or meditation in together during the experience. So we have some programming for people that they can join, and it's really a community that people that we have and that we experience together.
Is this a community that's a global community or just in the United States? Because someone wrote in the comments, I'm in the UK, unfortunately.
Yes, it's a global community. You can start a vegan spirituality group anywhere. In fact, if you'd like to start one, you can just reach out to me. I have all these materials to help people start a group in their area. We have had some people in the UK try to start one, and it didn't work for some reason or another, but we would love to have a group there and just to spread this.
So then, Debbie, if you're still here watching, you can contact Lisa, and maybe you can head up a group in the UK.
That would be great. Yes.
Yeah. What would be entailed in heading up and starting a whole group to be a leader? What's entailed in that?
Oh, well, generally people have an interest and they might want to join in and have a community, and maybe they want to actually meet some other spiritual vegans. And one way to do that is to start your group. And then people who are interested, they can do it through Meetup or Facebook, and usually people call it, Vegan Spirituality Los Angeles. And then people, just from the name, will be drawn towards the group. And for each individual, if you have maybe some desire to be a leader, to facilitate groups, and maybe you have your own meditation practice you want to bring in, or you want to discuss veganism and spirituality, we have a whole list of ideas of things that people can do for their group. But starting a group is really, usually I just talk to people, send them materials so that they can have a lot of ideas. And we also offer support, like people, if they're curious about, well, how do I start? What do I do? Then we'll do some one-on-one training with them too. So it's really a fun way to let your vegan freak flag fly, as they say. Let it fly. There is a group called Vegan Flag that we're really connected with also, that we love. And so it's one way to hang your vegan flag in your community and let people come to you. Maybe they don't feel comfortable going to a protest. Maybe that's not their style or their thing, but they are interested in spirituality and they want to learn more about it. And that would be their entryway to that. And they could be coming from a faith. Maybe it's a Christian-based group that you want to start. It's really up to the person who starts it.
That's a good point. I know when I go to Los Angeles and I stay with Jane, her personality. She's out there. She takes to the street. She'll take Jane Unchained with the camera, and she'll get it live for everybody and all these viewers. And then she'd be dragging me. I'm like a little shy one here. And she's like, Carissa, don't be shy, come on. And I'm like, I'm not really an activist. She's like, yes, you are. Your choices in life is activism. I'm like, but I'm a subtlist. I'm not an activist. I'm a subtlist. And she's like, that's brilliant. Did you make that up? And I'm like, I think so. But like, that's true. Like some people are in their element in a subtle way, and other people are in the element in a direct action type of way. And both are good and both work. It just matters on what works for you, which I think brings our conversation full circle with religion and spirituality. It's all about what works for you. And then an interfaith coalition is allowing you to bring veganism into the path that works for you. So it all comes together.
Exactly. It is a full circle. And it also does support activists too, because part of what we do and part of what I do at In Defense of Animals is support activists through emotional and also spiritual resources. And if we think back to, some of the motivators in the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King was deeply religious and spiritual, and that helped the community to actually do what they did in terms of their activism. So spirituality can be also a support. It can help people to feel hope, faith, to feel a sense of positivity. We can do this together. And I think that's really needed so that we can stay uplifted and continue this fight for the animals, and so that we feel good as well, that we feel uplifted, and we can nurture ourselves as we do this.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you want to add before we have to come to a close?
Oh, wow. Well, this has been a delight to be here. And I'm also just so intrigued by the things you're saying. It's been really fun to hear what you have to say about this. And also, we do at In Defense of Animals, we have a support line for activists if they are feeling down and want some help. And we also run a group that people have been joining from around the country. And so that's another wonderful thing that people can step into to get some support. And you can find that at idausa.org/activist support. And that will get you to phone, text, other ways to join in. So there's lots out there to help you if you are on a spiritual path, or if you're on a vegan path, or you want to put them both together.
And I think that's the pinnacle. When you get to the point where you're able to put it all together, the veganism, the spirituality, the health, the compassion for animals, the planetary concern for the environment, once you really make the connection, you've really launched a spiritual path, because you get it. I think spirituality, a lot of us are on the path, and a lot of us are aspiring to feel connected and feel in alignment. And I think that when we give ourselves the chance through diet and through our choices to consciously make the compassionate decision, we will feel in alignment, and we will feel that our choices are elevated. So keep up the good work. Keep it up.
Oh, thank you so much.
And if you're interested in about a trademark or whatever, send me an email, and I can, help with I'm not a trademark lawyer, but I do have a lawyer background. So it's a great word. You should definitely do something with it if it's available.
We will do that. I will be in touch with you. This is really, thank you so much. And that idea of alignment is so key. That's what helps us to feel really grounded and sense of safety and security, and also the deep love. So that's really what I wish for everyone, is that sense of alignment from aligning your practices and your choices and your thoughts and your life.
Okay, Lisa, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next portion of our show today, which every week we have a vegan certified product and brand that we represent. And if you have a vegan product and you want to make your claim official, you can go to Jane Unchained News Network to do so, and your certification fee will go to Jane and the nonprofit, so we can continue reporting on the laws that matter. Today's vegan brand is Rabbit Hole Foods. Rabbit Hole, hi Rosanna, and hi Walter.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us. I was introduced to Rabbit Hole Foods and backstage of New Day, New Chef. And I think I ate an entire bottle, whatever, of that uncrab meat. That one. I mean, seriously,
salad.
So good. So good. You had it backstage in a pot with crackers and bread. I think I ate the pot single-handedly. So tell us a little bit about your background, your story, how you got to this, place of where you are launching products in Whole Foods and doing good things.
Well, this is a great subject for me because I think I got here through spirituality.
Really?
Yeah. So I moved to Los Angeles in 1995 to study spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica. And, I thought that was what I was doing. I was becoming a therapist and I became a mother. And through it all, it was like there was a missing component for me, really escalating in the spiritual growth. And I really think it wasn't till I brought in the vegan component that it really all started to align. So this whole talk just reminded me of that. Like, that was the missing piece all those years. Like, that was 26 years ago. And veganism came in about 7 or 8 years ago. So we started as a little cafe. Walter and I kind of connected in a little community out here in Agora Hills. And that became like this cute little Alice in Wonderland themed cafe. It wasn't all vegan to begin with, but very quickly through our conversations, they're like, something's not right. And became a vegan brand, and then it really felt right. And I'll share more about that.
How long have you guys been in business, Rabbit Hole Foods?
Well, since 2012.
Yeah.
So what's it been like starting a business from scratch?
Oh boy, it's
right. It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is a loaded question.
I know.
We followed a passion, and I think that's what really led us here. And I think that's what's made the struggle the most tolerable, for sure, because we're doing something that we believe in, and that I think that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it's sure, it's a lot of work, but if it's who you are and it's what you believe in, then it just feels like doing you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say that it's the law of divine compensation. We are most aligned when our passion and our purpose become our profession.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're taking your passion and you're making it your purpose and you're not giving it up, it will become your profession. And that's the law of divine compensation. So tell us about your success. Where can we find you? I mean, I know it's
successes. We are all over Southern California right now. We are pretty saturated. If you live in Southern California, any health food market and some mainstream markets, Whole Foods, Gelson's, Mother's, Earwands of the world, our very, very first store we always love and will always mention, Follow Your Heart, iconic in this place. And we just look up to everything they've done and track that and follow that. But we are working very hard towards getting nationwide this year. Coronavirus has put a little bit of a delay in that, but we're really, really happy to announce today that you can get us nationwide if you go to gtofitsvegan.com, and they are an amazing new online vegan-only market. They've got all the newest brands, all the greatest brands, and you can get us there. All 6 of our SKUs, they are out of the uncrab today, but it'll be back in next week. But they have.
Well, you're out of it because it is so good. I mean,
yeah, it's
people
great.
People don't understand it until they try it. I swear, it's like you don't get it. It really is like you fell down a rabbit hole and in Wonderland, because it's like you're at a tea party and with the Mad Hatter trying these different flavors, and it's incredible. It really is incredible. I mean, I can't say, your brand didn't arrive. Normally I have it here, but luckily I've tried it in the past, and you guys you're going places big time.
Oh, that's so
cool. I believe in it. If you need any investors, let me know, because I like to believe in things, and this one's a good one. This brand's a good one. Oh, so how did you come up with the recipe? Who did that? You, Rosanna? Was this your recipe?
Somewhat. The recipes that are all familiar. There's nothing wild and new and amazing here, except that we took some familiar flavors, backyard barbecues and picnics and things we grew up eating, and we just put them together with plants. And it's really about matching flavor and texture and comfort. And it really came through our cafe, the Rabbit Hole Foods, a Rabbit Hole Cafe. You know, and tuna melts. We started serving tuna, real tuna, and there became a time where I couldn't even smell it anymore. And a dear friend of ours who was a longtime vegan chef said to take it off the market. And I said, well, it's our best seller. And he said, well, it won't be if you take it off the menu. And so we replaced it with chickpeas on tuna. And
yeah, which is right behind you, the untuna right behind you there.
Everybody,
there it is.
You know, just sort of showed up to get one day at lunch. And we're like, oh, by the way, we make it with chickpeas now. And everybody ordered it and everybody loved it just as much. And it was like, wow, that was easy. Let's do that some more. And we did it with on egg salad and on chicken curry. And then we
on egg.
Took our favorite dips and did it with our dips. And
there's the spinach.
We love working with chickpeas. We love working with jackfruit and hearts of palm. I mean, they're all amazing vegetables. I was reminded yesterday in doing some research, you know, chickpea was one of the 8 first plants in agricultural, and we still eat it. You know, it's like perfect combination of protein and fiber. Like, we're so obsessed with protein here. 1 cup of chickpeas has almost the same amount of fiber, which is going to give you so much greater health if you match that fiber. So there's just so much. We get to delve into everything we love, from saving animals to spirituality to health. Like, it's all right here every day for us to just play with. So
that's really how we launched it, was off of that, you know, getting curious about who you are and the food that you eat. You know, it's that sort of goes to the whole Alice in Wonderland theme and the rabbit hole and your curiosity. It's about encouraging everybody to follow their white rabbit, and not just in terms of food, but just as consumers and as humans. And I think that's what leads you to your spiritual awakening. That's what leads you to making more conscious choices. And, you know, as it relates to our food, what's that?
It'll lead you to Wonderland.
It will. I mean, it's your Wonderland to create here, isn't it?
Yeah. You could do a very merry unmeat day for you. Right? Instead of a very merry unbirthday, you could have a very merry unmeat day and have a feast.
I love that. Why haven't we had a very merry unmeat day? The unmeat day. I love it. Every day.
I think because every day is an unmeat day for us.
What about the Boycott Meat campaign that's happening right now with all the slaughterhouse workers and COVID? There's the whole Boycott Meat campaign. You could do something with them, align with them, and have a very merry unmeat day.
That's a terrific idea, Carissa. Let's talk that out. I love that. I think I love that.
So, what is it that you want the world to know, Jane Unchained viewers to know about Rabbit Hole Foods, besides the fact that it is absolutely delicious?
Well, I think, you know, one of the differentiators with the Rabbit Hole Foods products compared to, you know, other things that are out there in the market, you know, we've gone out of our way to keep it pretty simple, to work with whole plant. To steer away from using isolates and things like that, additional fillers, and we really try to keep it clean and keep it real and as minimally processed as possible. There's all kinds of great, you know, new vegan foods out there, and we love many of them. For us, we really wanted to keep it more on the whole food plant-based tip. And the whole idea of the untuna or the unegg is it's not to be egg. It's not to be chicken. So it's we've removed the thing that's the problem and haven't gone too far out of our way to try to be exactly that. That's sort of the point, is to hit customers with that the familiar flavor and experience without it going so far out of its way to be something that we really aren't into, and are hoping that people's tastes sort of shift away from that.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a born and raised vegan, I can't say I've ever tried crab or egg,
Right.
so I don't even know if the flavor does taste like
I remember
real
you
crab.
saying that day.
I don't know, but
It's certainly similar.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
food for everyone.
I don't want to know what
We-
real. I can say though that there are products out there that are so real tasting to the way the real thing smells to me that I hate it. It's such a turn off. But some people who are more, I think, of a transitioning vegan, who have cravings for the other flavors, it's a great product on the market for them. I bought one the other day. I'm not going to mention names because it's hey, it's a great that a brand is trying to be in the plant-based space. But it was so real tasting, I really couldn't eat it. So what I did is I got a dog. Pumpkin. I got her a few weeks ago, like a month ago, for the show. So she, I fed it to her, and she loved it. So I made it dog food because it was too real.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's a space right now for all of it. I mean, we're transitioning millions and millions of people right now to a vegan diet. So I love all of the areas. I love the people trying to mock it exactly. I love those of us that are just like, let's give it a nod and something familiar. And everyone that's doing even healthier. It's like everything will be soon, and it's very exciting. And we've been doing this a long time, and we're just thrilled to be part of everyone else doing it. It's
so
cool.
I want to answer two questions that I see here. One is Rebecca Allen. She says, what is the name of the vegan market again, where they can get your product?
Well, the online market is called GTOF, as in Frank.
GTFO, I think it is.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I always say it wrong. GTFO, like
get that
F out. Okay,
right.
Get that F out. It's FO. It's vegan.
Yes. And and then another guest is saying, who are these two? Elisa Beck, who are these two guests? I stepped away. So this Rabbit Hole Foods. This is Rosanna and Walter. You guys are partners in your venture, and you have. Why don't you show your products again off to everybody?
Yeah, we haven't talked about the unchicken. This is an unchicken curry, like a little deli salad, unegg, all chickpea based, and the untuna is the third of that series. And then Carissa's favorite, jackfruit and hearts of palm, uncrab. And then we have two sweet dips, spinach artichoke dip, and then the spinach and artichoke dip.
And show off your vegan certification behind it, the Be Veg certification.
Oh, yes. They're all Be Veg certified.
There it is. That's the Be Veg logo in stores.
We are so excited to be veg certified because it's hard to, with so many things coming on the market, it's easy for a consumer to turn it around and know it's vegan and know there are some things people don't even realize aren't vegan that we didn't even realize till into it, that we now know someone like you is reviewing all of the ingredients, and I can run into a store and pick it up if I see Be Veg. Mm-hmm. I do an allergy statement the same way, but Be Veg just sort of adds that extra quick assurance. So thank you. I was thrilled.
And just like you guys have your announcement today of being able to be found online at GTFO, we also are going through here at Be Veg our audits by the National Accreditation Center to be fully accredited under ISO standards. So we'll be the first vegan accredited standard in the world, the only one too.
Oh, congratulations.
So it means that it's going to go beyond next year, just ingredient disclosures. There'll have to be audits to facilities, just like there's audits for gluten-free and kosher and food safety. But it really will bring credibility to a standard that other people and the world didn't take seriously. So I'd like to say, some people say, well, why do I need to have a vegan logo out there? Everyone knows that I'm vegan. first of all, you don't always know if they're vegan. And second of all, if you are marketing vegan and you care about vegan, you should take a standard seriously too. And if you're going to say, well, I don't need that because everyone knows I'm vegan, then you're taking it just as lightly as the manufacturing facilities are taking it, which is not serious. So if you really care about veganism and you care about it being taken seriously, you should get certified vegan. You should want your manufacturing facility to certify vegan, because if they certify vegan, it makes your products cheaper to certify vegan because the facility is then certified vegan. And it keeps the assembly line and the supply chain accountable to a vegan standard, which in the end kills less animals.
Yeah.
And honestly, Carissa, your resourcefulness, your professionality, and just the experience working with you and your wealth of knowledge, you've actually made the process incredible for us, and really enlightening too. And
I was here trying to fill out another form for another business for a week, and it's like they get so daunting, and yours was just easy, intuitive, easy.
We're trying. It's like you kind of said, how was it starting 12 years ago or whatever the start, it's a process, because our goal is to make it easy for suppliers, because we know everyone's busy and that their priority is not necessarily gathering information for us, but that their priority is to be able to say they're certified. So we're trying to build systems of automation of applications, and that, it's costly to build these systems, and we are not fully there yet, but we are getting there, because it requires teams and agencies that are very tech savvy to build these automated forms for us to really keep things accountable and honest. That's the bottom line.
Well, as you've been developing this, your communication and accessibility has been exceptional. So
thank you.
I really appreciate everything that you are doing in this arena, and we couldn't recommend you higher.
Aww. Well, I can recommend you guys higher as well. I mean, I can't wait for all foods around the world, or country at least. I don't know if Whole Foods is around the world. I think it is. Whole Foods is everywhere. To carry Rabbit Whole Foods.
Likewise.
Uncrab, unchicken, unegg. Seriously though, it's going to get there. There are vegan products out there that are not as tasty, and sometimes they give veganism a bad rap, especially for those that want to transition to a vegan diet and they try maybe the wrong vegan cheese or the wrong vegan protein, right, and then they think, oh, that's disgusting, I'll never go vegan. Well, there are other products out there that are just so good that these are the products that everyone needs to try, because this is how they're going to transition to veganism and realize it's not only not a sacrifice, it just, well, I don't have a barometer to say it tastes better, but knowing nobody died, it tastes better. But I certainly don't think it's a sacrifice. But we probably need to ask someone who wasn't born and raised vegan. But that's not me. So
it's a process. It's a process, and I think what makes the process the easiest is having more foods available. So that's why I just keep returning to all these options that are coming out. It's amazing. You bring someone to a fast food place to get a burger now, and half the time, like, they won't notice, and they just had a real burger yesterday. And that's incredible. When in this lifetime would we have seen this? So the more options that come out, the more brands that are vegan certified, the more people risking, a little business to try to start to do this. It's all positioning.
It absolutely makes a difference. I took my paralegal to dinner the other night to Yard House, another restaurant all over the country, and they have Beyond. It was either Beyond or Impossible on the menu as a burger, and she was not going to order it. And I said, I'm not buying dinner unless you order the Impossible burger or the Beyond burger. And she's like, oh God, Carissa, are you serious? Like, I just took my daughter to Burger King. We just got a burger. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm not buying dinner unless you do it my way. So we ordered the veggie burger, and she was blown away. She took it home for the rest of her family to try. She refused to eat the whole thing because she wanted her husband, her mom, her daughter, everyone to try it. And then, like a week later, she goes, guess what? I went to Burger King drive-thru, and we all got the Impossible Whopper. And I'm like, see?
Nice.
It's exactly how it happens. Exactly. I have a very similar story, so I won't retell it, but it's exactly how it happens. And, I've been reading this book called The Curiosities of Food. It was written in 1859, and I can't remember the author right now, but he goes into all of the foods that were consumed. And if you read that book and see the things the world used to eat. It was many, many, many more animals than we eat now. And it just tells me we're reducing. People can't even think about eating lamb now. It's like we're going to be down to 0 animals very soon that someone looks at and goes, oh, I would try that. There's too many great options of food. Food's just gotten too exciting. So
and not to mention our planet cannot sustain it anymore. So it's time to go down the rabbit hole and try your delicious foods and end up in Wonderland.
Time. Get curious, try things. There's a whole world of plants that taste amazing.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today on Jane Unchained and Laws That Matter.
Thank you, Carissa.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. And hopefully I'll see you guys when COVID's done. I'll make a trip back out to Los Angeles.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everyone else for joining us this week for another episode of The Laws That Matter. I'm Carissa Kranz, and I will see you all next week.